Okay, I was asked about these wheels and tires, and the deal is, I had a Highway 61 fire truck that got completely destroyed in shipping. So that's where I got the front singles and the two rear duals. The rears were on this axle, and they also each one also has a spare. So I got from the fire truck, I got two front and the two dual rears plus one spare. And then I've got another Highway 61 truck that I'm not going to tear up, but I did pop the spare out of it because for a minute I was experimenting with something with four single tires. But anyway, what I found is that this 5 millimeter nylon hex on a wheel that hasn't had anything done to it, it almost will fit on there. It's just a tiny little bit too small, okay? So I just took a round diamond file and just like barely took the paint off, just, and then it'll press right on there. Now what I'm hoping is that I can use 5-minute epoxy, because I'm pretty sure this hex right here is made of nylon, and if that's the case, there aren't very many adhesives that will stick to nylon. There's basically none that I know of. Crazy glue won't do it. I never found anything that'll stick to nylon. But 5-minute epoxy will stick to the plastic on the inside of this rim, okay? So if I put some 5-minute epoxy in there and then press it on, I'm hoping that the epoxy will bond to the rim and form a hex, and that should hold everything in place. And once you've got them where they're, once you file it out a little bit, it'll just press on there. It's not difficult. And just push right on. And like I say, I think if I put some 5-minute epoxy in there, I can form a hex. Now, Brett brought up the problem that a lot of times with these, you put dual wheels on the rear and you find that the rear axles are too wide. Okay? But I found that on these, on the hex, because it's so long, if I keep the front wheels out to the end of the hex, I'm almost there now. Instead of tracking on the front wheel and the inside rear, the front wheel is moved out like kind of in between them. But I'd like to get it out just a little bit further, but I don't think that's going to be a problem, because if you pop off one of these rears, you can see that right here it's got this action going on. It's like a step right there, like a hub in there. If I were to remove that hub, that would move the rear wheel in. That's got to be at least 3/16 of an inch, maybe even 1/4 of an inch. I could move it in, because right now when I put the rear wheel on, the face of that hub will come right up against the axle housing right here, okay? So if I remove that hub, if I make that hub shorter, the wheel will slide in further. And again, on the rears, you just take a little bit of material out of the wheel and it'll just press right on there. And they hold in place pretty good, just like that, with just the press. And I'm really hoping that the 5-minute epoxy will give me just enough of a hex in there that that I'll be good to go. Now, it is still, not a high dollar frame, but the wheels don't tilt out too bad. And I think that I'm going to try and line this up with the camera so you guys can get an idea. I think this is really going to match well for the Hanomag, especially if I can move this wheel in another 1/4 inch. That'll bring me into, into here. I think that'll be a lot closer. And if you look very closely at the photographs of the SS100 from Hanomag, you'll see that their rear wheels are a little bit wider than the front. And I mean, it's only like maybe 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches tops per side. But you can see that the rear fender does, or if they've got like that running board that goes down the side, and that rear fender sticks out just a couple inches from that. So they are out just a tiny little bit. So I think that if I take that hub off the back there, I can get this to where I need it to be. And I think it's going to be really good for a Hanomag, because they did have regular street tires. They had a little better tread on them than these fire truck tires do. But I think the fire truck tires are much, much closer to being accurate for the Hanomag than the tires that come with the truck. So now if I can get a guy on RCTW, his screen name is Midlife, if I can get him to share his secrets of what he's doing, he's already got a cab together. I need to get better fenders though. I like his truck, but to be honest, I don't like the way he did his fenders. I want to do them different. They should be more curve to them, you know. So that's why I'm kind of taking a look at 1/16th model car kits. If I can find a 37 or 35 or 38 Chevy or Ford, I might be able to get fenders that I can, you know, modify into that. And I might also be able to get like hood panels and stuff. And then the rest I just got a scratch build. So we'll see how it goes, but I think this is going to be a really good start. Once I get the ESC in the mail, I've got the servo for it. It's around here somewhere. I've already got a servo that'll sit right in there for the steering. That's no problem. I can put my receiver right behind the servo. I'll use one of the, I'm not sure what I'm going to run it with yet. I can use one of the small, wait, I got a smaller one. I can use one of the really small i6 and run it on my i6. The only receivers I got for my 9X are pretty big. But like I said, I was also thinking about using the electronics from the temper crawler. Okay, now if I use these electronics from the temper crawler, the motor plugs in here and the steering servo plugs in here. And then I'm using a much better controller, similar to what comes with the truck, but then I'd be using this controller. And it does have proportional steering. And on this one, it opens up and you can adjust. It turns down the responsiveness to both throttle and steering. You can set that, and then you got trim for both throttle and steering. Okay, and you can reverse servos right here on this little transmitter. This will reverse steering, and this will reverse throttle. If you throw this switch and pull back, it'll go backwards. So it's just a much better controller than what comes with the truck, and it's something that I already got on hand. And I don't think I'd have any trouble mounting this little receiver in here. I think that'd be pretty easy. But I cannot figure out how to get sound if I do that. Now the main power just plugs in right here. That comes from the battery. Or excuse me, the battery plugs in here and the motor plugs in right here. So I don't really have a way to, I don't know. It doesn't have a receiver that I can hook up a DOS Micro to, you know what I mean? So I have no idea of how to get sound if I use this module. But I would get proportional steering and much better throttle control. And so I'm probably going to try this one first, just because I've already got it on hand and I'm still waiting for the ESCs to come from China. So we'll see how that works out, and I will keep you guys posted. See you next time.